There's a lot of fear around recovery. How the hell am I going to cope with life if I'm not allowed to drink? Life for me was scary. It drove me to drink.
What's there to cope with? The holidays? The nice income that we've got? The healthy, beautiful children we have? I could never understand you.
I'd contemplated hanging myself 2 nights before. I'm just trying to tell the truth. Welcome to the Goldings show. My name is David Golding. I am a recovered alcoholic, cocaine addict and gambling addict. I'm also known on Instagram as @SoberCoachDubai. I am the UAE's first and only full-time certified recovery mentor, sober coach and sober companion.
And I'm Kristina, David's wife, and I feel I have my own set of skills dealing with and living with an addict like David. Not all addicts, just like you. Your flavour of addicts.
The completely insane off the scale ones.
Yeah, I think I can cope with quite well.
Okay, today we're going to talk about going into rehab.
Best day ever, as Ricky Gervais said.
Really?
With the dogs. Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Okay, so this had been building up for me. This had been a 4-year journey for you.
Yeah.
We'd got married. We'd known each other for a year before. We'd got married. We'd had a couple of children.
A couple of kids.
Couple of kids in 1 year, by the way, I might point out.
Don't know how that happened.
Within 10 months of each other. Okay, but my addiction was just off the scale. The consequences have been coming thick and fast for over 3 years, 4 years. And then in episode 1, I talked through what my rock bottom was. And if anyone wants to go back and review that, it's really deep for me about what happened, that moment of disgust.
Yes.
That was what was necessary for me.
Yes.
Because, if people don't know, I'd been in and out of rehab for 10 years. The first time I'd been in was 2009, then 2014, and a couple of little cheeky rehabs in between.
So every 5 years you checked in?
Every 5 years. I was so screwed.
I remember thinking when you'd come out, sorry to divert, in another 5 years you're going to go back in because there's a pattern here.
Yep. I think that the pattern was I couldn't hold on to sobriety for very long. I lost it, and it took another 4 years of hell before I said, I'm done. But the previous 2 times when I said I'm done, I wasn't.
You hadn't surrendered.
I hadn't surrendered.
That's the important bit.
Let's go back to September the 18th, 2019 was the day I went into rehab. Talk me through that. How did you feel? You said best day ever.
Best day ever. Well, I wasn't there because I'd gone on the trip with my mum that you and I booked to go on. So I wasn't physically.
You were on a private jet.
I was on a private jet going to Mallorca with my mum. But I remember how I felt.
Okay.
Relieved, grateful. I prayed and prayed some more. And I always believed, I think I've said this before, I always believed you'd get sober.
Mm-hmm.
I was never in doubt.
You had faith.
Yeah.
Despite all the evidence that I was a nut job.
Because I like to pray.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of faith. And it's paid off, see? I do it all the time. I pray for everything. Just the fact that you said, I'm going to go in. I didn't ask you to go. I didn't force you to go. Your mum didn't force you to go. Your sisters didn't force you to go. You wanted to go. And I did think to myself, what's happened in the last 24 hours for him to do this? I didn't know about...
My sons.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until probably a few months ago, actually. So, yeah, you were in a bit of a rush. I remember you were in a rush to go in. They remembered you from before, and they couldn't fit you in as quickly as you'd hoped. Do you remember?
That's right.
Was it the
I
day
had to
after?
wait 24 hours or 48 hours.
And you carried on drinking even though you knew where you were going to go.
Well, I couldn't stop.
Even though you knew you were going to go in, you carried on drinking for that whole period of time.
The 2 days, yeah.
Anything else? Was it just the drink?
Oh, no, it was cocaine as well. And it's quite interesting.
Why do you do that, by the way? Because other people will be listening and they've done it as well. Why do you do that? Because I don't know your mind, do I?
No.
I am always intrigued with these explanations.
Yeah. And
because I learn from them.
Well, what's fascinating is sometimes you ask me a question where I don't know the bloody answer. I can imagine what it was like.
Rare, though, that ever happens.
Yeah, okay. Right, well, let's go back. There's all sorts of things that go through your mind. Your lowest ebb.
Yeah.
You know you're done for. And what I mean by that is that life as you used to know it is over. And I don't mean that you're trying to cling on to this wonderful life that is now about to change because it's over. What I mean is, you're done, you're finished, and you're going into rehab. And the moments of contemplation where you phone up and say, I need to come into rehab, please, I'm so screwed up. Please admit me to a secure mental health unit for 28 days. Because it's a secure mental unit. Okay?
I forget that, but it is.
It's a hospital.
Yeah.
I think people think, oh gosh, I bet he went to a rehab that had jacuzzis and gyms. And no, it's not cheap. And you get a nice bed, but you're not there for a fucking holiday.
Wasn't that nice?
No.
I came to visit you when I was a bit.
It's plenty good enough and plenty nice.
Where your mindset was at the time. You weren't looking at the detail.
It's not a 5-star hotel.
No.
It's a hospital where people get well, where people arrive that some want to die and they come out happy and their lives change forever. I've only got the highest praise for all rehabs and the people that work there. They give their time and they save lives. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the staff on the ATP, the Addiction Treatment Program, they're amazing. I could reel off their names and thank them all individually, but I do that myself offline. They completely sent me on my way with an education.
They saved you.
They did. They saved my life. Without a shadow of a doubt.
You had to meet them a little bit of the way because you were there. And
of course.
You'd put yourself there to be helped.
Correct. You got to turn up.
Yes.
All change begins by beginning. And that's a scary moment.
Good quote that. That's anything.
Yeah.
Say it again.
I'm not sure I remember what I said. I think all change begins with beginning.
You have to start. From 0 to 1.
The infinite journey, I've spoken about that before. The hardest thing is to go from 0 to 1, which is why it's infinity. To go from 1 to 2, well, that's just 100%. And to go from 2 to 3, well, that's 50%. Gosh, it's getting easier. Bloody hell, that graph is going right like that. But from 0 to 1, that's everything. That's the infinite journey.
Yeah, I like that.
To make that phone call, please, by the way, I was begging, please, I need to come into rehab.
And I could never have made you do that.
No.
The boys could never have made you say that.
Nobody.
Nobody on the planet would have.
Because quite simply, I would have said, I'm not going, I'm not ready, don't want to do it, it's not for me, been there before, don't like it, can't afford it, bugger off, and a gazillion
Every
excuses.
Excuse.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people have those excuses not to go to the Priory.
And
to rehab, sorry.
Yeah, to rehab.
It's because it is expensive.
And sometimes your insurance policy will pay for it, and sometimes not. But I tell you what, it's the best investment you'll ever make.
Yeah, because look at all what you spent on cocaine and alcohol, I dread to think, and what you gambled. It was cheap compared to what you'd lost gambling.
But it gave me a life. I wanted to die, and it gave me a life. Stayed married to my wife, and our relationship is stronger than ever, and I've got my children back. And, I can't talk about it enough.
It's priceless, isn't it?
Utterly priceless. But it does begin by just getting on with it and going in. So just to end what I was saying, often us in recovery, there's something that we call euphoric recall, where you remember some of the funny tales of before. And you've got to be careful because there's a bit of euphoria. And it's like, whoa, happy days. No, it wasn't happy. So I can tell stories, that are funny. But for me, it's not glamorizing it. But for some of us, we talk about having one last blowout.
Yeah, you said that.
You're going into rehab and you're never probably going to drink ever again. So they have a complete bender.
Sorry to mention this, but I have known a few of you. I don't know them, but I know that a few of the people that you've helped as a client or that you know personally have had those blowouts before you arrive at the front door because it's their last few hours before you help them.
Well, they know the game's up.
Yeah.
And also it's their crutch and they think, what am I going to do? There's a lot of fear around recovery. How the hell am I going to cope with life if I'm not allowed to drink?
Is that what they think?
That's what I thought.
How are you going to cope?
How am I going to cope with life? Life for me was scary. It was so scary, it drove me to drink.
See, I didn't realise that. If you'd have said that to me in the madness and you just said, how am I going to cope with life? And I'll say, cope with what? The holidays, the nice income that we've got, the healthy, beautiful children we have. What's there to cope with? I could never understand you.
I know. And that's because what I was coping with was what was in my head.
I know.
Not what was on the outside.
Nope.
So that's why I drank for the 2 days and took drugs before I turned up.
Before you went in. And they would have known that. Is that quite common?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's really very common for people to be driven up the driveway and they fall out of the taxi. Of course.
Really?
Well, they're bloody alcoholics and addicts. Yeah. If you imagine it's probably your lowest ebb.
Yeah.
What you think is your lowest ebb
Okay.
to go into a rehab. But again, it's a magical place. It's an absolutely...
You couldn't wait to go.
No, I couldn't. I was done.
You rang me and said, I'm not coming on holiday. This is where I need to be. Go on holiday. Don't go on holiday. It doesn't really matter. You took my approach. Do it or don't. I don't really care. You said that to me.
Did I?
Yeah, which was music to my ears. I'm going here. You just take care of yourself, take care of the children, and I'll see you in a month. And it was amazing.
Really?
Well, a whole month that I knew that you'd be safe. A month where I knew that you were surrounded with doctors and other people that were like you. So that I do think it's important for people to talk to other people.
Yes, indeed.
You weren't on your own in that house that you rented when you left me and the kids. Still don't know where that was. Doesn't really matter. You weren't on your own. You were with like people, like minds that could understand you, because I could never understand you, but they did. They understood you. It was fantastic. I had the best holiday because I knew where you were.
I was safe and getting help and out your hair.
I was relaxed.
And I wasn't a burden.
Yeah, I wasn't having dinner with my mum thinking, I wonder where he is now. I wonder how many bottles he's had. I wonder where the children are.
So this was probably a really important, different feeling for you. Because I know you said best day ever, but...
When Ricky Gervais said that about the dogs, what's that scene where
he's imagining the man with a clipboard telling all the dogs what their jobs are.
What the jobs are, yeah. And there was a dog that was going to be a lion. Like a lion. I can't remember now. Was it a Rottweiler?
It was
can't remember.
Ridgeback.
It was like best day ever with the paws in the air like that. Best day ever. That's how I felt when you told me best day ever. Never forgotten the feeling that I had.
Really?
Nope.
Because you've got a great relationship with your mum, and you've explained how you used to talk to her. She never really told you what to do or give you advice. She would be a great listening ear.
She tutted and undernard, but she never acted. Well, we used to talk in funny ways.
Go on.
I said, hey, guess what?
Is that what you said?
She said, what? David's checked himself into rehab. And she just was quiet. I said, he's in, he's gone, he's going tomorrow. Is he?
I can imagine your mum, by the way.
Well, we lived in Tilsley, and our accents used to come out, and she'd say, is he? Why? What's happened? And I said to her, I don't know what has happened to him. I dread to think what he's been through the last 2 days. But something's changed in him. I could hear it in his voice. You were so calm, and you were mirroring me. Go on holiday, Spike, or don't go on holiday. It doesn't matter. I'm going into rehab, and I'm going to get better.
I did say that.
With such certainty. I believed every word you said, and I've never doubted you since.
Bless you.
And I said, do you fancy going away tomorrow? I said, he can't come. We've got this holiday booked. It's paid for. It's an amazing trip. Do you fancy coming away? And she said, yes. Of course I will. I said, we'll get packing then, because we're leaving tomorrow at midday. And it just felt very odd.
But
very right.
Yes.
I'm going to go because it's the first time since we married when you were sober. It's the first time I can be away and not predict what was going to happen while I was away.
Right, car crashes and awful things.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So it was the best holiday. And me and my mum got some really good quality time. We laughed a lot. We talked about you a lot. The shock that you went into rehab off your own back took us into the first 4 days of the week holiday. That's all we talked about. I was so proud of you. I respected you like that.
Right.
Instantly. I'm getting happy now. So I remember I respected you so much when you said you were going to go in. I changed in that phone call.
Wow. Power.
Welcome back, husband.
Welcome back, husband.
Where have you been?
Can tell you, I think the first week in rehab is tough because it's a bit of a blur. And I don't mean it's hard work. It's a strange environment. You're still reeling from what it was that led you there.
Okay.
But you're around other people that are getting well. People are further ahead of you.
Yeah.
It was familiar for me too, right?
Yeah, you'd been twice.
I've got a fucking season ticket. So they knew me. Oh, hello, David. You're back it again. But no, they weren't like that. They were actually, this is great. You know, I've shared this before and said, you know, when I needed to go back, they didn't say, get stuffed. You're a loser. Get away from here.
You said this.
They said, come on, we can help you, David, and we know we can. I find that moving, that they never turned their back on me. We've got this concept in recovery, which is we don't shoot our wounded. And actually, they just showed that to me. We don't shoot our wounded.
Very true.
They were fucking amazing. And I dealt with all sorts of things, you know, some trauma, and they just held my hand and coaxed me and guided me like they do with everybody. I don't really recall the first week. I don't recall whether we even spoke on the phone or anything that first week.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Well, I was in Mallorca.
I don't think we did.
And I don't think you were allowed your phone, which was a bigger reward for me because I didn't have to keep worrying and texting you and reaching for my phone to see if you were okay or not okay. The phone was taken from you. I think the first week you didn't have a phone.
That's right. And I was on observations. So, you know, they have to see how you're doing. You know, some people are extremely ill, more ill than I was. And I was extremely ill. You know, some people are on a suicide watch. Yeah. You know, people are very ill. It's a hospital that deals with.
Weren't you on suicide watch when you first went in?
Yeah, a little bit.
Your doors didn't have locks.
No, they're soft doors. There's rooms which are protective environments designed specifically for people that they're concerned that are in a suicide situation. So yeah, you're right. I was on suicide watch because I'd explained to them that I'd contemplated hanging myself 2 nights before. Well, they fucking take that seriously. Of course they do. But pretty soon they realized that I wasn't going to do anything, and then they moved me to a better room, to number 23, if I recall. I always remember that. So then we do the work, and we start to go to daily meetings, and, you know, they do therapy in the morning and in the afternoon, and you go through an education, and so the process begins. But I tell you, the first memory that I have of you and me, of how our relationship had changed after 1 week, I think you went to Mallorca, you flew back. The sort of fog had cleared a little bit after 1 week. I'm a bit more me, bloody grateful to be alive.
Well, I didn't know that, did I? Because I hadn't spoken to you for a week.
No. And I think I WhatsApped you or texted you and said, can you come and visit?
Oh, yeah.
Shit scared. Absolutely shit scared about what you're going to say, how it's going to be received. Completely. Because I don't know what's on your mind. You don't know what's on my mind.
Like I'd keep a grudge.
Yeah.
I'd hold a grudge.
Yeah, of course. Lots of people do.
Just happy and grateful that you were there.
So you turned up. I was waiting to see you, and you drove in, and I'll never forget it.
We've never spoke about this.
You opened your mouth, and I did, and we went like that. And it's getting me teary because that was the first moment I thought, fuck, she's supporting me. She wants me, you know, because we fear that it's over. We feel the marriage is dead. You know, if you imagine 10 days before where I was and where you were, and 10 days later, fuck me, can things turn around that quick? Well, you were amazing. You opened your arms.
I'm just grateful.
But we'll talk about this maybe in the next episode about what happened after I came out, because you were just bloody amazing. But let's just talk about while I was in rehab.
Yeah, I remember coming to see you.
That first time I saw you.
You cried a lot.
Yeah. Tears of joy, tears of gratitude, tears of thank God, tears of, gosh, I'm so glad that you came.
Of course I would.
But my fear was I had no idea what would happen, how it would be received.
Oh. Is that what people fear when they're in there, do you think?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I've been around.
So your perspective completely changed. It changes when you're in there.
No.
What happens?
Well, I can tell you what can happen with other people. And I'd been around enough, and I'd been in the rooms long enough, and particularly around this rehab and other rehabs long enough to know what can happen. So let me tell you what can happen. Let's imagine that Brian goes into rehab, and he's been an alcoholic for a very long time, 20 years. Let's call it 20 years. And his long-suffering wife eventually gets him into rehab. I can tell you there's a large percentage of wives that never want him back.
Oh, yeah.
there's a large percentage of people. I don't mean the majority, but it's a large percentage.
I can understand.
Maybe they didn't think at the beginning, but listen, once he's been away for a month, it's been the best goddamn month they've ever had.
Because you're safe. You're being looked after.
And Brian's gone.
And you're not arrested.
Just for some people, I don't know how bad it might have been for them.
No, and we have to remember this, how lucky we were that we always had weeks of absence anyway. To live with you for a whole month without you going away was quite rare. To live without you for a month anyway was quite frequent.
Yes.
So I was used to it. So Daddy not being at home for a month, it's okay, guys. We're used to this. He's in, I don't know where
I think you said I was in New York.
New York. Like, wow, New York. I said, we will all go one day.
And they would have said, is he bringing me back a present?
Yeah.
And of
Which
course,
I'd get on Amazon, obviously, the day before you came back, so that they were all there.
Yeah. So for some men, they're scared. And women and all sorts of people, by the way. I don't just mean to pick one gender. But some people are bloody scared.
I can believe that, yeah.
I'll tell you another example. There's, and I'm not saying this, by the way, because I don't want to put anybody off going to rehab. I don't want anyone ever to think, oh my God, I'm not going to rehab because this might
people off.
might happen to me.
Some people do, some people don't like it. It's just, it's a personal thing.
I'm just trying to tell the truth about what happens and break some stigma down. There's also a point in the Priory where we do the 12 steps of AA as a recovery pathway. And the step one, there's a significant piece of work that goes on at step one. Because it's the point where you accept that you're powerless over your addiction and your life had become unmanageable. And when I'm working with clients, it's a really critical step because it breaks down your denial that you ever had any control over your drinking and that you've just screwed everything up and your life's a mess.
Not an easy thing to accept.
Not an easy
admit.
No.
To anybody.
Took me 10 years.
To admit that you were not in control of your drinking.
Correct. And that everything was unmanageable.
You would have argued, yes, I can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in control.
I'm right. You're wrong.
Stop talking like
I'm
that.
I'm big.
Yeah.
You're small.
I'm not that. He might be out of control, but I'm not.
Yeah.
All those denials, lunacies. So
you did.
So that's a lot of the work that we go through.
Okay.
But there's a point where we invite letters from home.
Step ones.
Step one letters.
I remember.
So I asked you to write me a letter.
I did.
And what we have to do, and we're encouraged in rehab, is to ask our loved ones to write us an honest and heartfelt, factual account of what it's like.
What it was like.
What it was
because
like.
Because now this is past.
Yes. What it was like living with me. Who am I? And that's because our denial, I've heard people say, it was fine. She never knew. My wife never knew I was drinking. And the letter comes, he was a bloody nightmare. He drank 6 bottles a night. And he was like, really? I thought I was so clever. She never knew.
Yeah, hard pill to swallow, that one. Listening to that step one.
Well,
I can't remember what my step one said.
I can't remember the exact words. I can remember the sentiment because it landed with me. It made me absolutely bawl my eyes out.
Was it the last line? I won't be defeated.
We will prevail.
I don't believe in defeat, and we will prevail.
Correct.
That's maybe my ego.
No, but you were right.
But I was right.
Because we fucking did prevail.
Because I believed and I prayed.
Yeah.
That's just not what I do. Yes.
So
we prevailed.
You wrote me a factual letter
about
what it was like to be with me over the last few years. Many examples of what I did and didn't do, like the situation with our son's birth and things like that.
Many of them. But
yes. Then you left the end of the letter and it was filled with hope. And that was the thing that had always been missing with me. There was a lack of hope that I could ever get well. I could ever turn my life around.
We have. Without force. I didn't have to force you. You just went.
Mm-hmm. And I was bloody grateful. And then, of course, the magical thing that happens is that as the days turn into weeks and it's 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks, wow, you begin to feel better. You begin to realize, yeah. You know, the proverbial turning a super tanker around. Doesn't half happen quick when you put your shoulder into it. Not that you would shoulder barge a super tanker, but you know what I mean.
I do.
Mixed metaphors, but really important to begin to have masses of hope. And with you visiting me, in fact, they had to ask you to...
We got told off.
We got told off.
Yeah.
Because you only lived half a mile away.
And we just got Raven.
The dog, yeah.
He needed plenty. I mean, German Shepherds need a lot of exercise. I was walking him everywhere. Come on, let's go and see your dad. And we used to come. I used to bring chocolates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what did they say to you?
We noticed, David, that you see your wife at least once a day. You can't do that any longer because you've got 1 foot in recovery and 1 foot at home.
Yeah. Looking back, I shouldn't have done that because other people would have wanted their partners to go and they couldn't have gone because they live miles away.
And I remember phoning you, crying and saying, I don't think I'm allowed to see you anymore.
I'll say it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Well, look, that's the end of this episode.
Gosh, they go quickly.
They do. But we've got the story. The next episode will be coming out of rehab and the support.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you
Thanks,
there.
Spike.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.